Hello, welcome, and thank you for coming. My name is Melissa Chan, and I'm the coordinator of the Young Innovator for Social Justice Prize program. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing you to tonight's prize winners, Eric W. Glustrom and Boris Bulayev. Eric is the co-founder and president of Educate. He recently just celebrated his 27th birthday on October 9th. Eric, happy belated birthday. Boris, co-founder and executive director of Educate, turned 26 last April, on the exact day he and Eric found out that they had won the prize. Boris, here's to many more pleasant surprises on your birthday. In 2002, then a high school student, Eric started Educate. Boris joined the organization in 2004 as a sophomore at Amherst College. Both Eric and Boris graduated from Amherst in 2007. Eric with a degree in biochemistry and Boris with a degree in economics. Together, they have been able to build Educate to something bigger than they could have accomplished alone. Eric and Boris's organization, Educate, is punctuated with an exclamation point. That one simple exclamation mark aptly and concisely describes three aspects of Educate. First, it describes the innovative impact, the innovative nature of their organization. Educate is the first organization in the world to incorporate its social entrepreneurship curriculum into a national education system, specifically in the national education system of Uganda. Second, that exclamation mark also describes the impact of their organization. The impact the organization has already had. Educate currently works with 1,400 individual leaders and entrepreneurs throughout Uganda, using the exponential empowerment model, defined as a long-term investment in a few who will go on to impact many others. In addition, that exclamation describes the impact the organization will continue to have. Educate's social entrepreneur curriculum will reach 45,000 students by the end of 2012. Just think of what Educate will be able to accomplish in 10 years from now. Thirdly, and finally, that exclamation mark describes the passionate and personality-filled leadership of Eric and Boris. Their passion and their unique personalities are self-evident to anybody who's already had a chance to meet them. And if you haven't had a chance to have a one-on-one conversation with them, you still have time to do so this week. My first contact with Eric and Boris were through emails, as the prize office needed additional information from them as prize finalists. Over several emails, without looking at who the sender was, I was able to identify emails written by Boris or Eric simply by the sheer number of exclamatory marks they used in their emails. When I finally met Eric and Boris in person this past Monday, their exclamatory personalities, that is, their enthusiasm and excitement for what they do, were infectious. And just one day and several hours later, I knew they would fit right into campus. Here are just some examples. He'll tell you they're not naps. He's very emphatic about it, but he takes frequent naps. So Boris has discovered that in JRC there's a secret student napping lounge, and he found that on his first day here. I've been working here 10 months, and I did not know such a thing existed. Also, Eric and Boris have a tendency to run on Grinnell time. For instance, at 8:01, I think Boris finally showed up for this presentation, which started at 8. Also, laundry doesn't seem to be a priority. As I ended up ironing Eric's shirt this past Monday night and almost had the opportunity to do a suitcase full of dirty laundry from Uganda. What I find most inspirational is the friendship and partnership between Boris and Eric. They would give each other the shirt off of their own backs, figuratively and literally, as happened this Monday. I overheard a conversation right before we were to be at a kind of a fancy business attire event at the Des Moines Embassy Club. It's 30 minutes before we were supposed to be there. I overhear Boris saying to Eric, "Dude, you can't wear this." I look over, and Eric presented a shirt that was 2 times bigger than he was, with sleeves that went past his fingers. So what happened was Boris lent him a shirt that I needed to iron that Eric wore to this event. But they do dress up nicely, as you can see. So I'm really, really pleased to introduce Boris and Eric. Boris will be talking about, his title is How Getting Cut from the Basketball Team Brought Me to Educate, and Eric's talk is called Jumping in the Deep End. Without further ado, Boris.
I really feel like I'm part of the Grinnell community now. First off, I guess I want to thank all of you guys for having me. It's an incredible honor to be here. Just want to thank everyone for welcoming me so much in this community, and thank my partner Eric for putting up with me for 7 years now. I'm not sure if you guys saw James Kofi Annan's speech, but I don't remember the inspirational chills going down my back as strongly. So I'm not sure how I'll be able to follow, but I can't say that it's a privilege to be sharing the stage with him, as well as Melissa, and just feel very generally honored to be here. Today I want to talk about a few lessons that I think I've learned in my short life that to me seem relevant no matter what you choose to do, and then to tell you a little bit about why I do what I do. So my first story deals with failure and starts with my childhood and an important part of my life that I lost when I got to college. I came to the States with my mom when I was 7 from Latvia, and when I got here I really had no clue where I was. I actually remember one of my first days in school coming up to someone and speaking Russian to them and being surprised they didn't speak back to me. I also remember choosing whether to go with Americanized Bobby as a name or to stick with Boris. And although I've taken lots of Boris Yeltsin, Iraqi, and Bullwinkle ridicule in my life, including at Monday at dinner, I think I've made the good choice. As soon as I figured out where I was, I immediately fell in love with a sport, which was basketball. And I love the game, and it was kind of my way to get integrated into the U.S., and I started playing right away. Pretty quickly on, I had plans to play in the NBA, and was debating whether I'd be in the slam dunk or three-point contest, and or both. Those plans didn't unfold as I would have liked, but I'm still hopeful. When I got to high school, basketball truly became my life. I committed to play 3 hours a day, 6 days a week, and wanted to be Player of the Year in San Francisco, where I was from. My love of the game and the dedication paid off, or began to pay off, as I won second team All-City junior year. Things were moving along really well senior year, and it's about 4 games left in my season. I went up for a layup, came down a little funny, and something felt wrong. I found out a week later I tore my ACL, and my season was over. I was pretty devastated, to say the least. With time, I recovered and had my surgery and began rehab with the goal of making the team at Amherst College, where I decided to go to school. I rehabbed very hard and actually came back in about 5 months, which was pretty fast time horizon for this. But I was very determined to make the team. I started playing with the team right away, and though I wasn't playing great, really thought my chances were pretty good of making the team. I got along really well with everyone, and I worked so hard to come back, and I come back so hard, so fast, that I kind of thought, I've put everything behind this, there's no way I could fail. And then I remember a few days into tryouts, the coach took me outside and told me, I'm not going to keep you. I didn't really know what to say. Kind of packed up my bags, went outside, and cried. I couldn't really believe it had happened. I'd worked so hard to do this, to rehab and to make it. and did everything I could to succeed, but I failed, and it really hurt. In a school like Amherst, it was particularly tough just because everything revolved around sports, and I'd spent the first 3 months of college with all my basketball friends, and so I had to find a new set of friends and really a new identity, because I always conceptualized myself as a basketball player, and if I wasn't that, then who was I? Did a variety of things to figure out what I would do. Volunteered at a local after-school program, lower-income kids. I tried to join student government. I think I even tried to DJ at the radio station, which was a bit of a failure. I was eventually able to find some new friends and settle into my post-basketball existence. But things weren't really the same. I left for summer after my freshman year, thinking that I might try out again, and started working really hard to get back into shape. I came back, started playing with the team, and really wanted to prove myself that I could make it, prove that I could overcome this challenge. And I was playing with the team, and then made a turn, and then tore my ACL again. I guess I wasn't really going to be able to avenge my failure. I was pretty devastated again. And then, sort of out of nowhere, beginning of my, shortly after I tore my ACL, after a pretty challenging start sophomore year, Eric came up to me and told me a little bit more about Educate, and told me that he wanted to bring it to Amherst, and he asked me if I'd get involved. And I was like, I don't really have anything to do with myself. I might as well do it. And the rest is history. In hindsight, I really wouldn't have had things any other way. And so many good things in my life has happened. But it all happened because of this failure. And this kind of brings me to my first lesson, which is sort of find failures and opportunities. Find opportunities in failures. The lights are bright over here. I think every failure is an opportunity for something new, and I don't think I'd be here today without my biggest failure of all, and losing what I thought was so integral to me. My second story actually starts with another failure and deals with risk. At the end of college, probably like all of you, I was nervous about what to do and really wanted to be a management consultant. So I read all the books, emailed every firm, tried really hard to get a job, and then again failed. But in that failure, right before I left college, I met someone randomly through a party who was an alum, and I found my dream job working to start companies at a startup incubator, which is basically a company that starts other companies. I had an amazing experience there and truly learned to become an entrepreneur. And again, found myself, in hindsight, really lucky to fail at getting a management consulting job. But after about 15 months, I felt it was time to go. I had learned everything I could and wanted to be on my own. I wanted to spend more time on Educate, and in general, wanted to be more entrepreneurial. But it was the fall of 2008, which was a pretty gruesome time for some, and the world was somewhat falling apart. And everyone told me I was crazy. But I knew I had to do it, and I did. I quit, and I've never regretted it. And that kind of takes me to my second lesson, which is take risks to pursue your passion. What really convinced me, which really continues to drive me today, is that this idea that if I can't take a risk now, to do something I really care about, how it's not going to be any easier 2 years later. It's not going to be any. I was 23 at the time. It wasn't going to be any easier when I was going to be 25. It was going to be even tougher when I'm 30. And seeing actually my friends now that have not taken some of those risks, I think it's true. I think you really do have to take risks to get what you want. And one of the things I've noticed is as I've taken one risk, I've been able to take more, and my tolerance to do that has improved. I'm really glad I learned that early on, and feel very blessed to know that everything that I can accomplish by just taking risks and pursuing my passion. The final story deals with becoming good at something and has closely to do with our experience building Educate, especially coming out of college. First off, I think it's worth pointing out that we really had no idea what we were doing. during college and just really trying to figure out our best. Talked to the social entrepreneur group, and I think it sounds like they know a lot more than we did at the time. During summer, after we graduated from Amherst College, after we gotten over our period of mourning post-college, we took a deep dive into this lesson and tried to figure out how we could take this project we had built in college, which gave scholarships for young people to attend school, and make it into something innovative. So we did what we knew how to do. We emailed a bunch of people, went online, tried to find everyone we could find in Uganda through random circles, and asked them if they would talk to us. We were hoping to find some answers for us from them. We had a lot of conversations talking about ways Educate could be better, ways we could more effectively achieve our goal, ways we could improve. We had a strong drive to become better, and I think we really did that summer because of that drive. From that summer on, we got the concept of what we do now, which has gone on to win several awards, and it was really coming in blank, not really knowing anything, but just asking a lot of questions and listening, and slowly piecing something pretty cool together. We really started out without a clue, but I think the desire to learn took us there. This newfound belief in asking advice and striving to become better didn't stop. It really has become a part of the culture of our organization. And I think that's why I have faith that we'll continue growing and being more impactful. During the next year, we had a bunch more conversations and continued to improve. And to this day, consistently seek out people who can help us out. Just this morning, we had breakfast with the controller of Grinnell College, who taught us many things we did not know about finance, which we should know. And so that the process continues. I think in general, something that I've built faith in is that even when you start with nothing, if you just have an urge and an eagerness to learn, then eventually you can become pretty good, which is my last lesson. So just to be clear, there are lots of things we don't do well at Educate, but I think there are a few things we do really well, and that's because we ask for advice. And I think the things we do poorly, we are consistently trying to improve. It's another example, actually. My partner Eric here, I would say, is pretty close to an expert advocate now, who's been helping train and support the International Labor Organization, which is a many, many $1 million organization, and how to advocate for a cause and how to work with governments. Eric's not particularly trained in advocacy, but he's been eager to learn and has been trying to do his best. And I do really believe if you try to become really good at something, eventually you will. So those are 3 lessons that kind of would take away from my life so far. Turn failures into opportunities, take risks to pursue your passion, and if you try hard to become really good at something, eventually you will. I think without them, I wouldn't be here today. And those lessons don't have to apply to social justice, although they did in my case. But it's something I cherish deeply and I know can carry forth whatever I do. Before I finish, I want to say something quickly about why I do what I do, which actually very much resonates with what James Kofi Annan said. Growing up as an immigrant, my drive and ambition was very much to make money and be successful. It motivated me throughout school and my childhood. But by the end of Amherst College, which I'm seeing is very, very similar to Grinnell, I realized that I'd been given so much opportunity that my path had been already set up for me. I just had to run down it. But it began to feel very unfair that others don't have that same opportunity. And I personally find that fundamentally unfair and unjust. So I've dedicated myself to helping others get that same opportunity. James Kofi Annan said, to whom much is given, much is expected. I think that rings very true. I want to encourage all of you guys to find your purpose in the way that you can leverage your own opportunity to help others who haven't been as lucky. For me, that means doing Educate. For you, it'll probably be something else. But whatever it is. Just make sure to find your purpose and take advantage of your opportunity. I recently read a really good study that compared two groups of people that were pursuing their ambitions. One group had monetary ambition, and one had a purpose-driven goal. They studied this group over a long period of time, and they found that after about 10 years, the group that had been searching for money had achieved that goal, but was equally happy, but was a lot more stressed out. Whereas the group that was pursuing their purpose goal was no more stressed out and even happier. So in many ways, it seems like pursuing your purpose is pretty equivalent to pursuing happiness. I'd like to close by affirming the power of young people. You know, we were very, very young when we started this. But if you actually look at most major innovations, changes, organizations in the world, they're all started by people in their 20s. Apple, Microsoft, Google. It's very rare to actually find really huge organizations that were not. I think there are a variety of reasons for this, which I'm happy to discuss afterwards. But I think it really shows the unique drive and flexibility in thinking that young people have that makes them uniquely capable of changing the world. I'm only 26, but I do already feel a bit old in this world. I was at it's the leading U.S. social entrepreneurship conference in September, and I looked around and was like, wow, I'm the oldest one here. So don't wait. I think your time is definitely now. If I would take anything from Eric and my experience, it's that we didn't really have a path or know what we were doing. In my case, I was kind of lost, looking for something else to do. But by reacting to life's challenges and finding opportunities in them, taking a few risks, and being really eager to learn, we were able to make something truly impactful happen. And I think from everything I know about the Grinnell community and the incredible students I've been lucky enough to meet, I'm very confident that all of you will go on to change the world in ways I can only imagine. It's been really amazing to interact with the students here, and I do truly see amazing potential in everyone here and in the ideas that people have, and hope you'll keep me updated and share your lessons with me in the future. Thank you.
Boris and I oftentimes don't agree on things, and I actually remember him coming into my room and asking me if he could get more involved in Educate rather than me going to him. I think he was still wearing his knee brace at that point, by the way. It's good to have a partner you don't agree with, really. So I wanted to talk a little bit about jumping in the deep end. And when I was a fourth year, at Amherst, we, the common problem was, common question, common problem. What are you going to do when you graduate? And I didn't know clearly what I was going to do. My friends had no idea what they were going to do. And really, I think it's something that comes with the privilege of a place like this. Is we have so many choices. We have so many interests. We can do so many different things. And it's just a problem of choosing which one to do. I like to use cheesy analogies, as you'll figure out throughout this talk. The first one has to do with a pool. And I think of college as us, when we're college students, kind of lying on the side of a pool on a lounge chair, looking out over the pool of life. And we're probably, examining that pool, trying to learn more about it, occasionally dipping our hand in the pool and feeling the water. But really, we're lounging on a lounge chair, probably with a fruity drink with an umbrella in it, and just having a great time. And then, once college ends and you realize you have to get up from this lounge chair, I'd like to really encourage you all, instead of taking the easy stairs down into the pool, to really walk around to the other side and just jump in the deep end. There's a proverb that goes something like this: what I hear, I forget. What I see, I remember. And what I do, I understand. When Mahatma Gandhi, was a young lawyer in South Africa, he was taking a first-class train to his next job. and he ended up getting kicked off this train. Many of you probably know this story. He got thrown off the train in the middle of the night and ended up sleeping on the deck of the train station for that evening, just because of the color of his skin. They didn't want him to be riding first class. And Gandhi went to South Africa, not thinking especially about social justice issues, but had this moment in his life when he, for some unexplainable reason to him, got thrown off a train and ended up spending the night on the train station deck. And I think by jumping in the deep end, we really start to understand what it is that we want to focus our lives on. And the concept, this moment of obligation that we talked about before. For Gandhi, it was getting kicked off the train. For many others, it's this moment when you see an injustice so great that you have to do something about it. Or in our case, it's when you see an opportunity of such promise that not doing something to take advantage of that opportunity would be an injustice in and of itself. And so for us, for me especially, my moment of obligation was in 2002 in a refugee settlement. I had become close friends with a young man named Vincent Olivier, who was about my age. I was 17, he was 18. And I remember so clearly a couple statements he made to me. And they really set the course and the foundation, kind of the guiding words of Educate. And what he said was, if you want to help me, and if you want to help my community, and if you want to help my country — he was a refugee from the Democratic Republic of Congo — then help me to get an education. Because with an education, I can start to solve all these problems. And it really made a lot of sense. It resonated with me on a very deep level. And I knew from that point on that because of the potential I saw within Benson, and because of this concept that education could unlock that potential, I really had to do something about that. And not doing something about that would be an injustice in and of itself. And so for me, that was my moment of obligation. I think for many Grinnell students, it's been wonderful to see that Grinnell has given you all such an opportunity to not just sit on the side of the pool, but actually jump in, test the waters, see how things go. We had yet another social hour earlier today. Sorry, Melissa. With a group of Grinnell students, and we went around the table one by one, and each of them talked about what they were interested in. And it wasn't just what they were interested in. I think Boris first asked them to describe what they're interested in 2 sentences, and then the next question was, what are you doing about that in 2 sentences? And everyone had an amazing answer, and doing all these incredible things with the prison system and with sustainable food and with biodiversity and the impact on culture and communities surrounding biodiversity. Just incredible stuff going on. And, for one, I don't think this was nearly as common at Amherst, our lovely college with the greatest mascot in the history of colleges, the Lord Jeff. Wasn't nearly as common at Amherst, but I think Grinnell gives you a really fortunate environment by which to really jump in the water. So while I ended up in Uganda and had this moment of obligation while I was there, which was separate from school and separate from my education, Grinnell, I think, has given so many of you a chance to have that moment of obligation while you're in school. And in terms of jumping in the deep end, the moment of obligation is really the first step. Is what sets the course for the next steps and for what you eventually will want to be doing. But going back to those cheesy analogies, the next cheesy analogy, I think of this moment of obligation as a seed. A seed is enough to create a tree. A seed is the beginning of creating a tree, but it's definitely not enough. And ultimately what keeps that tree alive are all the leaves. And I think the leaves is being the equivalent of all the experiences, the thousands of experiences and thousands of decisions that we make every single day. And it's those decisions that really bring that moment of obligation to life, and then eventually, if we're talking about social justice, will help solve some sort of social justice issue. And so while Gandhi, didn't expect to be working for social justice when he went down to South Africa, eventually he obviously led a life which made incredible changes, and one of the most influential social justice leaders of history. But what I'd like to say is that while the moment of obligation is oftentimes really appropriate and relevant and nice, the rest is really messy. Everything that comes after is really messy. And Boris actually put it really well earlier in the week. He said, in hindsight, the narrative of someone's life oftentimes makes a lot of sense. But going through that narrative, at least I think we've found so far, it really doesn't make that much sense at all. And it's by jumping in the deep end and really jumping into that uncertainty that we can figure out the path forward. And so I just wanted to give a few examples of what this messiness looks like, or at least has looked like in the context of Educate. And I hope that as students you can apply this to your own decisions and recognize that, you know, the narrative isn't really obvious today. But when you're looking back on it 5 years later as an elder alum, you know, it seems to come together pretty well. So, you know, at Amherst I studied biochemistry. Well, I studied neuroscience, and then they wouldn't let me go to track practice, because I had to go to a seminar. So I quit neuroscience my senior year, right before I was about to graduate, and made up an independent biochemistry major. And I was writing a thesis about the impact of insecticides on people and animals and ecosystems, specifically whether insecticides can imitate estrogen and all the implications that overexposure to estrogen has, such as breast cancer. And one of the great ways to test out this concept is through rats. And it wasn't the favorite part of my thesis, but what ended up happening was I basically had a randomized control trial, we've been talking about those earlier today, of rats that had been over-ectomized, which means they weren't producing estrogen. And then we injected them with the insecticides and wanted to see if they observed or they demonstrated behavior associated with estrogen. Best way to do this is to put a male rat in a cage with a female rat and film it. Now, what happens if the rat's been exposed to estrogen? Rats do what they do and reproduce. If the rat has not been exposed to estrogen, then nothing happens. I had something like 9 treatment rats, 9 control rats, half an hour of video of each, ended up being something like 18 hours of film. Thus, my senior year, I spent about 18 hours in the computer lab watching rat behavior on film. And, you know, at some point during these 18 hours, I realized that I love biochemistry. And honestly, the only reason I study biochemistry is because I'm extremely interested in it. But at some point during these 18 hours, I think I hit the tipping point, and I realized that for the rest of my life, for 80 years, and no offense to any biochemistry or science professors in this room, but for 80 years I could be studying one protein and how one protein binds to one molecule, and then the resulting movement that comes from that binding process. And there's a chance that that could be completely inconsequential in the long run. And I knew that as I was watching these rats and observing their interesting behavior in that cage, I knew that I probably had to switch, or I probably had to think of what to do after college. And this is my senior year. So I ended up applying to Teach for America. I have a lot of great things to say about Teach for America, and I was accepted. I was about to go to teach in a school in North Carolina, and Boris will be the first one to attest to this, that I was is what I like to call busy, and what other people like to call flaky. I was busy in college, and so I oftentimes would forget about appointments. And so this was back in the days when Wendy Kopp used to call some of the accepted core members to encourage them and whatnot. And so I had this phone call with Wendy Kopp, the founder of Teach for America, and I totally forgot about it. And so I happened to be downstairs in the basement of the library, very busy, studying away, and I was on a bathroom break. So I'm sitting on the toilet, and Wendy Kopp calls, and obviously a number I didn't know, so I picked it up. Hello, this is Wendy. Oh, shit, like literally. And so, Wendy, can I call you right back? I'm in the basement. Their service is not good down here. So I run upstairs and have a great phone call with Wendy Kopp and talk about Teach for America and what it focuses on, what my job would be like as a core member. But it still didn't feel quite right. I was probably going to be teaching chemistry, and realized that, rather than teaching chemistry, I'd much rather teach kids how to change the world. And Educate was going through some transitions, and we were thinking about how we could really fulfill that statement that Benson said back in 2002, if you help me to receive an education, I can solve the problems facing my community. How can we develop a type of education that actually executes on that concept? And so, I ended up deferring Teach for America for a year just to keep my options open, and graduated. And pretty much, I guess we went straight to Uganda after graduation, and then I came back, and a week after being back, I called Teach for America and said, sorry, I'm doing Educate. And it was really felt like a breath of fresh air. It's so amazing to be able to focus on these things that we care about full time. We don't have to worry about exams. We don't have to worry about whatever, sports. We don't have to worry about all the stuff going on at college. We really focus on it full time. And so I was in Boston after graduating. Luckily, some crazy scientific foundation had given me a lot of money to watch those rap videos. And it was more money than I needed. And so I had some savings from this science scholarship, which helped me in the beginning while I was in Boston. So basically, it was enough to get by in terms of food, in terms of rent. My office ended up being Kinko's store number 0162 in Cambridge, Massachusetts. The manager of Kinko's store number 0162 is a guy named Dave Kennedy, who I became good friends with. And he basically let me go in and use their wireless internet whenever I needed to. And I occasionally bought M&Ms, but it was really a one-way relationship. In terms of food, when I didn't feel like cooking or didn't want to buy food, I had a friend who was going to a nearby college who would sneak out food from the dining hall for me, which I really appreciated, and oftentimes would eat, pretty good dining hall food and a lot of pretty good dining hall food. And when I needed to supplement my income, and I had another friend who was working at Mass General Hospital, which does a lot of medical studies on patients, and oftentimes those medical studies pay, and they always need a control group. And so she would, hint at when there's a really good medical study, one of those ones that pays a lot coming up. And, I would go and participate in the medical study. And I remember this often involved lying in an fMRI and doing crazy things, answering crazy questions and whatnot. And I was oftentimes pretty tired when I went to those medical studies. And when you're asleep, the brain responds differently to these different stimuli that they're giving you. And so, it was not okay to sleep in the fMRI. But oftentimes I was tired, and oftentimes I'd fall asleep. And so most studies I was able to get through, but some of them, I fell asleep too often, and that didn't work out very well. I'm saying all this really with a point, which is that all this happened in the course of developing Educate. And I think when we look back in hindsight on this narrative, it looks so clean. Paul Farmer's wonderful book, Mountains Beyond Mountains, he has a great paragraph in there which he talks about how he worked with migrant workers from Haiti and when he was somewhere in the southern United States. And at the end of the paragraph, he says, I really wish that my experience with those migrant workers from Haiti directly led to me starting this health organization, which is now transforming healthcare in Haiti. But in reality, that it wasn't that simple. And I think in the same way, we can look at a narrative of a life and say it's so simple, it worked out so easily for that person, everything kind of fell into place. In reality, it's really messy. And you really just have to jump in and figure it out as you go. And do whatever it takes, even if it means falling asleep in the fMRI room. This is the best learning experience we could possibly have, is jumping in and actually doing it and learning as we go. I split that first year after college between Boston and Uganda. And the 6 months in Uganda, the 6 months in Boston, I think I counted it up one time. In 11 months, there were 450 meetings with people to learn just about what we were doing. And it was from all that learning that really came a clear sense of not only the direction that I wanted Educate to go in, but also my own values, what I believe in, and why the question, why do you do what you do? Why I do what I do? And I really don't think I could have learned that if I wasn't in it, if I hadn't have jumped in the deep end, so to speak. I wasn't making a salary, and whatnot. I said, let's just do it. Because I feel like I'm doing the right thing, I hope that things will work out. And they did work out. And I feel extremely fortunate for all of those pieces coming together like a puzzle. And would encourage you all now as you're making these decisions, you have many different options. You're are so involved in so many different things. Don't worry about finding that perfect opportunity. Just jump in. Start somewhere. At first you're going to be thrashing around in the water, but eventually you'll figure it out and be on a really great direction. And I think, we as people, we have we're inclined not to like uncertainty. But living with uncertainty and accepting uncertainty as a part of life is one of the most important things that we can do. And it's by accepting that uncertainty that comes with jumping in deep water and not knowing what's going to happen that we actually can find a great sense of conviction in terms of where we'd like to go and what we'd like to do in our own lives. So I really, I didn't talk about Educate very much during this speech, and we've had many conversations about Educate, and I really would love to talk more. But I put this together because this is what I would have wanted someone to tell me when I graduated from Amherst. And I hope this is also helpful for you all. So thank you very much.